Hi everyone, welcome back to Belle's Books. I'm Carly and today I'm going to be talking to you about the books that I have read in the first part of August. Now I don't usually do mid-month wrap-ups. The only reason I'm doing this is because I have library books that I need to take back to the library and I want to hold them up while I talk about them. So the first two books that I'm going to talk about, the first one is Citizen, an American Lyric by Claudia Rankine. This is a poetry collection, although sorry, it's a bit shiny there. There are poems in here, but the format is kind of a bit genre bending. So I'd say that some of the work in here is almost essay like. There's also multimedia, so there's pictures and art from various artists, some of which is beautiful, some of which is disturbing. So she's got like photos in here. And this one I really love. Come on. There you go. So yeah, there's all sorts of mediums in this book. This is a collection about race and racism in the US, and it's done so beautifully. It's very accessible. Again, this is one of the poetry collections that I picked up because it's an accessible collection. Like I said, some of them read like essays, so it's very easy to read. And this looks at the whole sweep of racism, from very small microaggressions experienced by I think Rankine herself and her friends, that are like minuscule, like just small comments where someone says something that's just a little bit not right, and their response is, wait, did you just say that? To really big, extensive forms of structural racism. And the thing that I loved so much about this collection, other than it's beautifully written, it's incredibly moving and profound, was the way that she builds up and she intersperses those different forms of racism with each other, so that it feels like you as a white person can never understand that, and I appreciate that. But the way that this collection builds really kind of makes you appreciate the way that microaggressions feed into and bolster those forms of structural racism. Sorry, my computer is binging because this is my lunch break. I'm working from home today. So that's what I found extremely clever about this collection. She talks about all kinds of arenas. So she talks a little bit about sport. There's what feels like an essay in here about Serena Williams and all of the racism that she's had to deal with. So she kind of documents all of the incidents that build up to a point where Serena lost her temper, and then it shows you the white responses to her losing her temper. But by that point you totally understand why she's lost her temper, because you think, oh my god, all of these racist incidents that she's had to put up with and she's dealt with so beautifully and calmly when she shouldn't even have to. And then the one time that she loses her temper because she's been the victim of racism, people have a go at her for it. And it's just done, it's just so clever. It's so clever. And also she does, she talks about Zinedine Zidane as well, when he was racially abused in the World Cup. And that is interspersed with pictures, which I thought was very clever. Now I'm not going to be able to find it, am I? There we are. So you've got, it's almost like a transcript of, so you've got the text and the poem on this side. And then on the other side, you've got who said what. So you've got some excerpts from Zinedine Zidane himself from interviews. You've got something from James Baldwin there and from other people that have spoken on racism, interspersed with the pictures, like stills of what happened on the pitch when I think he headbutted the person that was racially abusing him. And yeah, it's just this collection, honestly, if you haven't read it, please read it, because it's, even though I think, when was it written? A while ago, 2015. It's still so pertinent now, it's still so relevant, and it's just a marvellous collection, particularly to understand how all forms of racism link up and connect, and you really do get a sense of overwhelm from it, and it's just fantastic. Please read it. Okay, next I read Mr. Loverman by Bernardine Evaristo. This is my second Evaristo. Girl, Woman, Other was my favourite fiction book of last year, and I enjoyed this. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, because lots of people were raving about it and saying how it was so joyous and, you know, just such a lovely read. And it's an engaging read. I wouldn't say it's lovely because all the characters in this book are struggling. So we follow Barry, or Barrington, who is this really dapper old dude. He's 74. He's from Antigua, and he's married and he's got 2 daughters, but he's gay, and he's been having an affair with his best friend Morris all of his life, and their relationship is lovely, and he's kind of dealing with, you know, being in a marriage that is false, and he doesn't really like his wife because she thinks that he's out cheating on her with other women. He is cheating on her. He's cheating on her with Morris. He's a great character, but the thing I love about Evaristo's writing is every character she writes is flawed, and because that's how people are. And the clever thing that she does is that she'll get you on side with them through their own perspective. So in one minute you're totally on Barry's side because you're like, oh, his wife's really like nagging at him and he just wants to be able to live his life with Morris in this relationship that he's been in for all of his life, and she's holding him back. And then you hear from her perspective and she's like, I love this man, he doesn't, you know, he's been cheating on me. And it's heartbreaking because you really feel for her. And she gets you on side with all of the characters, even though from one minute you're kind of like, you're like, oh, I'm angry at this character because they're just being a dick. In the next breath, you're totally on their side. And that's one of her like amazing skills as a writer, is that what she does with getting the reader to be on side with that character is just fantastic. So yeah, we're following the story of Barry and Morris, like trying to find a way to actually live together after all these years of being in the closet. But there's a lot of themes in here. So homophobia, racism, gentrification, and classism. There's all sorts going on here, but it's always done with such a light touch with Evaristo. It's so clever, and it's just such a page turner. So it's I would really recommend it. It's a good book, but a lot of the time you kind of feel sad for these characters because no one's really happy. Although Morris and Barry are like in this relationship, Morris is lonely because he wants to be with Barry. Barry is unhappy. Barry's daughters are unhappy. Barry's wife is unhappy. And it, you know, it has a nice resolution at the end, but it's not a massively joyous read, I wouldn't say. My one quibble with this book is that there is slight mention right at the beginning that Carmel, Barring's wife, threatens him with instances of like domestic violence. Like I think there's one where she threatens him with a knife, or she hits him or something like that. Now, that isn't really explored, and fair enough, if she didn't want to go down that route, fine, but I kind of question the validity of putting in if you're not going to talk about it, if you're not going to explore it, because to have it as a minor incident where he's like, and also Barry kind of jokes a little bit about it and like, oh, I can't tell her I'm gay, I can't come out and tell her I'm leaving her because she'll knife me, and it's almost dealt with humour. There is a lot of humour in this book, and that's great. But one thing that I object to is domestic violence, no matter who the victim is, being sidelined and not being dealt with properly. Just because if you're going to talk about male victims of domestic violence, great, but don't make it humorous, because it's not humorous. So yeah, that was just my one quibble, but she didn't really go anywhere with it, so I just question the relevance of putting it in the first place. You totally understand why Carmel's angry at him, but I don't think it was necessary to put that in as a character trait. I think it just didn't stand up for me. Anyway, but apart from that, it was a very engaging read. So yes, would recommend this. I want to try the rest of her back catalogue now. I think I want to get Blonde Roots next. So yeah. Okay, then I listened to an audiobook, and I listened to Becoming by Michelle Obama, which is her memoir, and it was just delightful. I loved everything about it. I loved hearing her read it out, something about her voice, and it's one of those things where I know she wrote it and it was finished like just as Trump was coming in, and it was just kind of heartbreaking to listen to how much that Obama had achieved while he was in office, you know, breaking like the amount of legislature, I can never say that word, he got through, the good they did, like the stuff that she did, where she set up a garden in the White House, and the awareness that they raised about obesity, childhood obesity, and helping people eat more healthily, the laws that they passed to make that happen so that obesity levels went down, and all the good they did, and even just little things like the art that they put up in the White House to represent Black artists, and breaking down the divide of class between the president that lives in this big house and the community. They would invite children in to the White House, and oh, it's just so lovely. And it's really kind of disheartening now that you know that Trump has reversed so much that Obama brought in, and so much good that Obama did, and all this shit that Trump has kind of put America backwards by 50 years. It's just really heartbreaking. But it was a lovely book to read, to listen to. And she's just a solid woman, isn't she, Michelle Obama? She's an absolute ledge. I just love her, and I love Obama, and I love their relationship. It was just a joy, an absolute joy to listen to. So I would highly recommend that, 5 stars. And the last one that I have to talk to you about is Ali Smith's Winter, which I have been rereading for my PhD research. It's got lots of tabs in there. Again, I'm not going to talk too much about this because I'm going to do a separate video on this series, but this follows a family at Christmas time. We've got Art, who's a bit of a dick. He's a kind of arrogant, apathetic nature writer who breaks up with his girlfriend because of those aforementioned qualities right before Christmas, even though he's promised his mum he's going to bring his girlfriend home for Christmas. So he hires some girl off the street to pretend to be his girlfriend while he goes to visit his mum in Cornwall for Christmas. They rock up at her house. She's having some kind of breakdown, it seems. And so it's really just about all of the interactions between the characters, between Art and this faux girlfriend, Lux. And she is the character that kind of brings everyone together, that makes everyone question themselves and their assumptions, as usual. Ali Smith always has one of these rogue characters that steps into these scenes and shakes everything up, and Lux is that character in this book. And we also have Iris, who is Art's aunt, and she's an activist and all-round general amazing woman, and she provides a counterpoint to Art's mother, Sophia, who is just not wanting to engage with the world. She's very privileged, she's got a lot of money, and she just thinks her sister is awful because she protests about nuclear weapons and climate change and all this kind of stuff. So there's lots of characters that are at odds with each other. Again, there's lots of themes in this book. So Iris was protesting when she was younger at the Greenham Common Women's Peace Camp against nuclear weapons. And as always, Ali Smith threads everything through from past events back to the future and current events beautifully. So yeah, it's a really good one to read at Christmas time because it's riffing off of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. So you kind of follow the same tropes where Sophia is the Scrooge character, and right at the beginning there's this floating head next to her, which you don't know if it's real or if it's just a figment of her imagination, and then you go back into memory. So we dip backwards and forwards in time as usual with any Ali Smith, and you're from 1 minute you're in the current moment and then you're in someone's memory, and yeah, it's just wonderful. I still don't know which is my favourite out of this series. I'm just started to read Summer, so I'll tell you after I've read that one, but I just love them all. I love them. Pick them up. Okay, so those are the 4 books that I had to talk to you about. I will be doing another wrap up at the end of August to talk about the books I am reading for the History Challenge, which I spoke about in my last video. So I'll link that down in the description box below. I'm currently reading a biography of Gentleman Jack and Lister, which I'm buddy reading with Emma from Cup of Books. And I'm listening to an audiobook called Gender Rebels, I think. So I will talk to you about those in my next wrap up. Talk to me in the comments below. Have you read any of these books? What did you think of them? What are you reading at the moment? Just tell me all the things, and I will speak to you in my next video. Bye guys.